to the dice tire.
Yes, welcome. I'm Tom Vasel, and this is Holly, my co-host, and I'm talking about my top 100 games. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the 20s. We're getting close to the end. Numbers 26 through 30. So let's just get started in that right away. Number 30 is a new game on the list, and that is Kingsburg. Kingsburg is a game of, what else? Rolling dice. But I like the idea of rolling dice in this game. What you're doing is rolling dice and using the results of those dice to control different people, different advisors to the king or the king himself. I mean, really nice artwork. But the dice themselves are a lot of fun. Each person rolls dice. Let's say you get a 2, 3, and 4. You can put a die on a 2, a die on a 3, a die on a 4, or a die on a 5, adding the 2 and 3, and etc. You know, you can add dice together, but you have to take turns. And then you get your typical, oh, shocking, more cubes, resources. But it's a lot of fun. There's interaction because you're taking spots that other people want. You then will build what buildings you want on this board, and the whole theme comes through. It works really well as a two-player game. You have some neutral players in, but it's also fun as a multiplayer game. I've played it many times this year. Like I said, it's a new game, and yet the fantasy theme comes through because you have to fight off the evil, monsters at the end of each round. But also, there's just the idea of rolling dice and then using those dice that you roll to take different rolls. I find that quite a bit of fun. So my number 30 is Kingsburg. New game by a new company, but one that's tremendously good. Number 29, Cash and Guns. Now this is the box of the expansion, because this is the box that I actually keep the guns in. Here's your gun. All right, and so Cash and Guns is fun because you point at other people and you shoot them. Okay, that sounds like something you do with little kids, right?
No. Oh.
Okay, well, anyway. But the expansion adds ninja stars and samurai swords and all different things. But basically the game is you have a pile of money each turn and you're splitting it up and everyone points guns at each other. And then you have to determine whether the person loaded a real bullet or not. And then you have to decide, should I drop out of this round or should I stay in and assume that they're not going to shoot me? Because if you get too many wounds, you die. If you drop out too many times, you won't get any money. And there's just so much going on, and it's really fun to see all the different guns pointed around. It's a very non-violent game, even though there's guns being pointed. It's very fun. There's no actual physical harm, but it's just funny to see these. Now the American version has orange guns. I got the American expansion, which is why my sword is orange. But I managed to get these black ones, which are probably illegal in America. And there's even a shotgun expansion. Lots of fun. Lots of entertaining options you can play where one person's an undercover police officer. You can play with people who have different special powers. You can play with teams. It's very entertaining and a very fun game. So my number 29 is Cash and Guns. 28 is Hollywood Blockbuster. Now I have the older version, which is called Fabric der Traum or Traum Fabric, whatever the name is. But this is a game by Reiner Knizia in which players are making movies. You each have your own studio. You're bidding on different folks to add to the movies that you have. Now, the movies that came with the game were older movies. They were Gone with the Wind, but a whole bunch of other movies, and everything was in German. So I went to Board Game Geek, and I downloaded different people. Like, for example, I pasted up, here's Kevin Spacey, worth 2 stars, and Nicole Kidman, worth 3 stars. And I didn't necessarily agree with everything, but it really is funny to just see the different things you can get. Like, Jamie Foxx in Braveheart, he's the star actor of that movie. But just to put these movies together, and that's fun in of itself. But the gameplay behind it, the auction mechanic in which you have, these are basically contracts. They're used as money. And every time you win a bid, all the contracts that you bid are split evenly between all the other players. So if you don't win for a while, you eventually will have tons of money and you'll be able to win. And it really brings the game together in a good way. I like the paste ups, okay? It was good without the paste ups, but the paste ups for me added a lot to the game. It was some work. Hollywood Blockbuster has modern movies, modern actors. It changes a few of their letters and makes some parodies. But the game itself is very good. Reiner Knizia is somebody who normally doesn't have a lot of theme in his games, but this one does. So I highly recommend it. Traum Fabric, or the modern name, Hollywood Blockbuster. Number 27 is another Knizia game, but as I said, that last one was full of theme. This one's not, and yet I like it anyway. And it's Through the Desert. Now I happen to have the German version here. I got it in a trade. But the game is basically identical. Through the Desert comes with a whole pile of plastic camels. They look like candy. I mean, they really do look like candy, and there's lots of plastic camels in the game. There's also plastic people and trees. And what you're doing is you're putting them on this big desert board. You're moving these camels around and placing them, trying to get the longest line of different camels. You're trying to form different groups and control areas. It's almost like the old-fashioned game Go. But instead of it being as complicated, and I hesitate to say that because Go's not very complicated, but instead of being as deep as Go, it's a little bit lighter, and yet there's really no luck in the game at all. The game is all strategy, and you're simply trying to use your people, your camels of different colors, and scatter them across the board, getting lots of points. Boy, there sure is a lot of camels in this game, isn't there? And it's just a lot of fun. And are you eating my camel? Okay. Well, there we go. So, but I mean, while the game looks cute, it's anything but. It's very strategic. It's an abstract strategy game, regardless of the camels and oases and everything else. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Nowadays, it comes in a much smaller box. But it's basically the same thing. I mean, you got a board, you got a pile of camels, and that's it. So my number 27 is Through the Desert. And that brings us to 26, which is a heavy game. Feel how heavy that is. Can you lift it?
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's heavy. This is War of the Ring. Now, my copy of War of the Ring is even heavier than it should be because there's an expansion inside. But I really enjoy the Lord of the Ring books. In fact, I think the Lord of the Ring movies are the greatest movies ever made. But there is plasticky goodness. All kinds of troops. And in fact, if there's anything negative, it's that all the troops are the same color. You can see that these troops, I painted their bases purple so that you can more easily tell them apart from the other red troops. Yes, ma'am. Okay, well, we'll get back to that. And there's the Nazgul. But what this game is it's really... Okay, you want the rules? It's really Lord of the Rings in a box. It's really everything that you want from the movies and from the books all together in one place. You have the Fellowship carrying the ring, and the Nazgul are frantically hunting them down, and you also have these massive battles going across. You have all the major characters show up, especially if you include the expansion. And while the expansion is not the greatest expansion ever, it's its own game, but it adds to the basic game. Still, the base game by itself is just a massive, amazing affair. You're using dice, and I'm looking through this massive pile of pieces. Here they are, piles of dice, and these dice allow you to take different actions depending on what you roll. And that really adds some strategy to the game. You got to deal with what you get, but how exactly do you use these dice? Do you work hard to get more dice in the game? And just it's just a tremendously fun game, and that's for those people who are counting the amount of times they say fun. Well, that's about it for this time. All these games are great. I think some of them, like Kingsburg, almost everybody should pick up a copy of that one, or Cash and Guns. Just lots of fun. War of the Rings is more of a specialized crowd. It's kind of a mix between a war game and an exploration game in a sense, but it's fairly deep compared to the other ones. But they're all excellent games. But anyway, we're getting to the top 25 starting next time. What games are coming up, you'll have to wait and see. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel, and this is Holly, and we'll see you guys next time.